Hi, good morning. Thank you for joining us at Poetry and Prose. It is the 28th of April, 2024, and this is our open mic and discussion meeting. We have quite a few poets reading original work for you today, so we're going to jump right into it. I am Gersha, and I'm going to be just the chairperson for this meeting for everyone who knows me and everyone who doesn't. And our first reader today will be Althea Mark Romeo. She will be reading Secondhand Homelands, It Is Not Debt and Discounted. Althea, you have the floor.
Okay. I'm going to be reading three poems from my recent collection. Well, be on the borders of belonging. And some of these poems are based on personal experience as well as the experience of refugees around the world. Um, so uh, I As a background to the poems, I will say quickly that I lived in Liberia, West Africa for 14 years. I taught at the University of Liberia, and I've managed to have lived through a military coup, two attempted coups, and the start of a civil war. And my family left Liberia in 1990 when there were two civil wars, when the first one started, and we moved to London and we had to declare ourselves as refugees. Although my husband is from Grenada and had a British passport, he still had to declare himself as a refugee because we left everything we owned behind. My husband is a medical doctor and we left our home, his livelihood. He operated a clinic and we had to abandon everything and we went to London with nothing, of course. And so we had to start from scratch. So that is the background for the three poems that I'm going to read. Uh, so the first poem, Secondhand Homelands. There are always lines that we must stand in at airports and ports, borders and checkpoints, at charity shops and schools, lines that separate us from others like sheep and goats. Laws divide and shame us, the immigrant, migrant, refugees. Our will are the legs we stand on as we suffer in snaking queues, dare to demonstrate our desire to improve our lot. The headlines of daily papers across our globe demonstrate the stories of sacrifices we make to seek passage across oceans, seas, and borders. The deadly outcomes fall on deaf ears, fed on the fulfillment of dreams. What matters after arrival are the stories our children will hear. They are stories that will crush the spirit or build backbones of steel. Second-hand homelands, when not illusions, are our havens. They are the hand-me-down homelands, too big, too tight, or itchy that we gladly grasp. They can be ill-fitting, suffocating, alien things, and the recipients for long have no say in the matter of fitting in. It is not death. Haven is a B&B in London that houses the displaced. We thank God for small mercies, a free British breakfast dished out by a Jamaican cook, our escape from the rage still sweeping our land. The horrors we fled are seared in memory. Reel after reel replay in our sleep at night. We have left behind the executed, the dead, and rumored dead. There was no time for goodbyes, no time to grieve or regret. We live a new life in limbo. We have lost our independence and lean on the generosity of others. Our status is hard to swallow, but it is not death. It is not death. And the third poem is Discounted. A smile hides the shame she feels as she combs second-hand shops, seeks out dated goods, scour bargain basements or bargain bins. The silk nightgown she smells, cautiously caresses in an upscale store, clings to dry, calloused palms. Jerking away, she flees the lingerie department, discounts beyond her reach, her touch, her hands form fist in frayed pockets. Sadness rakes her face as she races down the escalator to basement bargains. Crowded bins, perspiration smells, last year's rejects, brand imitations, polyester tossed about are familiar. Rummaging through scattered cast off, a soft silk memory gloves her hands. Okay, thank you for allowing me to share those.
Thank you, Althea, so much for sharing. They're very powerful. Any comments?
I always find that Althea's work is so eloquent and speaks to the heart and speaks to the human condition. There's so much going on in the world right now that, this is reflective, even though it's a different time and place.
That's so true.
Yeah, we see it happening constantly every day, and I guess if you've gone through it, then you can really identify with those people. For example, every day we see people dying trying to cross oceans to get to London, and this horrible idea of shipping them off to Rwanda. It's, makes you think of again when they ship slaves off to America, or people who are taken from one country and shipped to another. So yeah, history keeps repeating itself, and that is very sad.
Thanks, Althea. If there are no other comments, we will move ahead to Motilal. Nope, to Krishna. Sorry. Krishna will be reading from his book, The Public Orator, Free Verse, Cry of the Buzzards, and The Corridor. Krish,
Yeah,
you have
thank
the
you.
floor.
Well, seeing that I was next, I was saving my comments on Althea's reading. To
Okay.
start with, yes, Althea, you know we note what I like about her is when she's crafting her poems now, you could see it was carefully crafted, measured, rendering of the lines, the images, and so on. And in addition to her wonderfully crafted poems, you have her voice, the way she reads. It's very engaging to hear her enunciate her lines herself. Not everybody can read their own poems. We have been told this. Not everybody is a good reader. I like to think I'm a good reader. Alta is a very good reader of her work. Yes. So that's the comments, a follow-up. Then I want to get into a little advertisement. So here it is, the book that we focused on the last time we met. I got a copy. I have it here. It's nice to have uh, something solid in your hand. Thanks to my son, I can't afford this. Well, I don't have the to buy things on Amazon. You need your Visa card, your credit card, right? So he was able to do that, and it's nice. The feel of it. This is the paperback version. He said it cost well to reach here $200. I see it as 20 US. He said 21 US, but the cost was $200. So I am grateful for this. The next thing also about this book, I was trying to get in touch with the people from 1974, and I did contact someone from Tobago. I don't know if you know the name Anthony Woodruff. He's a well-known musician, and I got onto him through Facebook, and he was able to suggest some names to me. I got onto a next person who, well, they appear in the book, and we talked over the phone, and trying to get on to others to tell them. I just encourage them to buy the book now because they would see themselves in it as sixth formers then, the class of 74. Right. So that is for advertisement. That's comments and advertisements. And now for today's reading. It's significant. I had no idea what I'm going to read, but it's significant to follow Altia's poems, because on the 27th of July, 1990, nearing 6 p.m., I was with my family in my two-bedroom apartment in Bonanza Gardens, Green Acres. And I got a telephone call from my brother saying, in great alarm, that Imam Yassin Abu Bakr of the Jamaat at al-Muslimin had taken over the country, and that he himself was on national television proclaiming the good news. For the ensuing 7 days, the country was gripped in terror. Some of us would have gone through that. They were days of intense uncertainty. Our republic, it seems, was on the brink of being revolutionized into an Islamic state. So I wrote, while I was going through this, I wrote poems. I was writing poems, and we had curfew and things. And I wrote poems, and then when I put out this book, The Public Orator, I selected 12 poems based on that attempted coup. And I was wondering, well, you know, when I was writing the poems, when I was preparing the poems for the book, what format I'm going to use, what's the form. And I don't know how it came to me to use the haiku form, the Japanese haiku form. And I experimented with it. I didn't go with the usual haiku form, which is 5 first line, 7 syllables I'm talking about, sorry. 5 syllables, 7 syllables, and 5 syllables in the third line. That 5, 7, 5, 17 syllables and all. I experimented with it, and I tried to follow the advice of Anson Gonzalez, who told me that once you start a haiku, there seemed to be a tradition. You start one, somebody else picks up another haiku, and it goes on until it completes a story. So I used that idea. In the same way I experimented with the sonnet form. You know, you have the sonnet, the 2 parts, the sestet and the octave. And you could use the Shakespearean form or the Petrarchan form. The Shakespearean form is 3 quatrains and a sonnet. I tend to use that 3 quatrains and a sonnet. So experimented. So this one is called Free Verse. And of course, the title was 2 Ways. Yesterday's dreams decayed at my doorstep last night. In a fright, I groped my way through dark thoughts that drew like curtains in my lamplit, distressed mind. Tense with the silence of the screen that drones to the stillness of the shots, I cowered at thoughts of scribbling verses to the call of the laden nozzle and the ink running red on blackened pages. The rage smoldered like the runes that flashed in a second as the news flash hit the airwaves. I dashed for the thinning sliver of light, dusk held still within the palm of her hands, abruptly crashing all that the years, all the yesterdays on the mountain of tomorrow stockpiled. Today, I borrow the dreams of the exile, the sorrow of the word that breeds in peace, in war, seeds. So that is a free verse. And another is just the other day, going into Port of Spain, and you see them left of you in the labas, these vultures, cry of the buzzards. So it's another coup, cry of the buzzards. The buzzards are landing near cadavers strewn on curbs, they parachute. They pass time picking the detritus of our shaken dreams, our nightmares. Colossal is their task, to clean the bones of flesh, veins, arteries, nerves. They attend to their job with amazing alacrity and vigor. In droves and in hordes, they attack, and bit by bit, the bones are pecked clean. Sated, they wing their way out of the gutted chaos to distant clouds. Somehow, if we don't clean up this devastation, if we can't scavenge the fecal stench of nightmares, on the skyline, they'll reappear, hunchback on leafless trees, bishopric in armored suits, hooks set to pounce and tear. They'll guard the tongue's perimeter, awaiting the cry, the next order. And I'll complete with the corridor, the east-west corridor. I think the term was coined by Lloyd Bess to describe that east-west, the corridor. The corridor dances to the tunes made popular by our prophets and our poets in a frenzy that repeats the frenetic drum beats of a distant homeland. Swells with faces of a culture sown with seeds of unease in environments not habit worthy to the human principle of divinity. The West ran east in ramshackle sheds on stilts that stalk the northern range, fatted prey for the politicians inspired around, and cultivation of the way, a way that wends its frame through dead ends, docks, and dens. The East lost its rusticity as the West offloaded the strains of the city. One flame lit can ignite the span. At night from afar, moving towards it, each home twinkles like a star. Thank you all.
Thank you, Krishna. And now I muted everyone because I was hearing Krishna feedback in the beginning. So if you'd like to comment, please feel free to unmute and comment on his work.
Krishna, I'm blown away by your imagery. It's so beautiful. You never made the that shanty town sound so good.
It'll be a visit. Yeah. Yeah, thank you.
Okay, and I've also listed Krishna's work in the link in the chat. So if anyone wants the Amazon link to his work,
Thank you,
Krishna, I'm
Gush.
still ordering. I have to order my book because I need a physical book for you to sign. So
Yeah.
I'm gonna order it and bring it in. But you know, I wait. It's on my list. I wait till I have a bunch because I'm gonna have to pay customs and clearing anyways. So when I have a stack of books, then I bring it in. So it's in the stack. Butilal, you have a comment?
Yes, because shipping always put a heavy burden on us. Krisha, as usual, you always blow us away with your poems, and I like the one about the King Kowo. Maybe we should learn some efficiency from the Kobo.
Yeah. Yeah, thanks. Thanks, Mood.
Thank you. Okay, we're gonna move ahead to Heather. Heather will be Heather Latu Ferguson. She will be reading for us today, the Macomé. Heather, the
Well,
floor is-
I started a series of little books about Trini culture, different segments of the culture, and this one is entitled Secrets and Scandals, the Macomé. It's a short story. Tanti Jean was the village Macomé. She know everybody business, who step out with who making baby for who thieving from who, and so on. As part of the underground network of gossip and innuendo in a small village, she made it her business to keep up with what was going on below the surface of the everyday niceties of polite society. While smiling in your face, Tanti Jean could cut you down in a minute with no thought for either the truth of the matter at hand or the fallout her sharp tongue might cause in the lives of her victims. When her story did not have enough fact, she merrily made up the rest, filling in the blanks to make her retelling of it all the more exciting. For example, when Miss Price's belly started getting big, she said it was a pregnancy, only to find out later the poor woman had a tumor. Tanti Jean was a married woman with 2 school-aged children. Her hard-working, long-suffering husband, Goonie, worked at a nearby coconut plantation, and Tanti Jean grew a few provisions, including a variety of figs, in her garden that she sold at market on Saturday mornings. She lived in a small house in a community of huts near the beach. It could have been an idyllic life, but that was not enough for her. She devoted herself to gossip and falsities, pumping herself up in trying to make out she was superior to others in the village. Every day, Tanti Jean would get up early before dawn when the sky was still dark and peep around the corners of her yard to see who was stirring. That was usually when she would see Mohan sneaking away from his house to get a little sugar from Ram wife, after Ram took his pirogue out for a morning of fishing on the sea. Yes, early morning was the best time to catch fish and the best time to get a few thrills in before the hard work of the day began. Tanti Jean even went as far as to verify her suspicions with a walk close by Ram's house, applying her ears to the windows and walls to hear the unmistakable sounds of lovemaking taking place inside. By the time 9 o'clock came, news would done reach by the ladies in the market who would greet Ram's wife with a sly smile and "But girl, how you looking radiant so? Like you get some sugar this morning or what?" Causing her to blush so hard they knew what Tanti Jean said was true. Later yet, a few months on, when Ram's wife was showing big belly, speculation among the whispering market ladies was rife as to who the baby's real father was. Ram was walking around proud as a peacock, his wife making baby, thereby proving his manhood. And Mohan was feeling like he scored a secret triumph, proving his own manhood. And Ram's wife walked around pushing her belly forward, proving her womanhood, while the underground network buzzed overtime, wondering who the baby would come out looking like. Around this time, Tanti Jean got wind of another potential scandal. She heard about the wanderings of a local white minister from the Canadian Presbyterian Mission visiting a certain parishioner a little too often. Gil, he buys Sumitra hours, all hours of the day, a neighbor mentioned to Tanti Jean. And when he there, he stayed long, long. Tanti Jean's radars went up. She now began to work overtime to catch them red-handed. She knew Sumitra's husband left for work in the oil field at 8 o'clock sharp every day. She waited her time and casually walked by the house soon after. All was quiet. No sounds and no signs of the minister yet. Then 2 hours later, she see the minister walking up the garden path to Sumitra's house, bold as brass. She hid behind a bush and watched. Sumitra opened the door, well dressed up with plenty makeup on, and so early in the morning too. The door closed and Tanti Jean went under the house, which was constructed on stilts. She heard talking, but she could not make out what was being said. Like they praying, she wondered. Then she heard some rustling. Then all went quiet. Little by little, a soft crescendo of sound arose, like heavy breathing mixing with the outdoor sounds of a breeze running through a stand of cane in the yard. Bravely, Tanti Jean then climbed the outdoor stairs to the veranda and peeped in through the jalousie slats in the window. What she see almost blind she. There she saw Sumitra and the minister in the throes of passion, wrapped up tight, tight like two fat mackerel entwined. Tanti Jean could not wait to go back to tell the ladies at the market about her discovery. This was a scandal indeed, as it crossed racial lines. Whites usually did not mix with the locals unless to dictate to them in a superior manner. There were plantation bosses, the church elite, business people, government personnel whose dealings with locals reflected a master slave mentality. Friendship on an equal footing was virtually non existent. By evening time that day, the gossip had made the rounds of the underground network. Oh God, that Sumitra is a real slut, all the women agreed. And so the Mako engine kept going. Tanti Jean noticed how the ladies relished Sumitra's downfall, but said nothing against the white minister who, as a man of God, remained free of blame in their gossip. Tanti Jean started to look into the minister's life, making use of her extensive network of fellow Makos across the island. She found out he hailed from Atlantic Canada and had first gone to a parish near Caroni. There he ran into a scandal blackmailing a local farmer to get him to thief provisions from a plantation on which he worked to give to the minister, who in turn gave it out as charity instead of conducting proper legal fundraisers for the poor, pocketing any funds set aside for such provisions. Apparently, he used blackmail with a whiff of Batman scandal to get the farmer to enter into and maintain his crooked scheme. Tanti Jean was shocked. She reported this to the market ladies. You can't trust them white people, God or no God, they said. You ain't hear how they tricked that Laltu fella from Faizabad into selling them his land cheap, cheap so they could get the oil there? And that is where they open up the Apex oil field that making millions now. They just come with a Bible in one hand and cut you with the other. From that day on, Tanti Jean vowed never to trust the minister. I go be watching he like a hawk. I go play dead to catch Kobo live. Then one market day when Tanti Jean take her fig to sell, she felt sick halfway through the morning. I leaving my fig by you to sell, she told a friend. I going home. I ain't feeling good at all. I eat too much of fry bake last night late. She left her fig and started down the road toward home. As she walked in the fresh air, she felt better. By the time she came into her yard, she felt refreshed. She noticed a cart piled with young coconuts in the yard. What is this, she wondered? Then, coming from the Mara in the back of the house, she heard two male voices, one with a foreign accent and the other the more familiar voice of her husband, who usually spent market day home alone as the children went by the church where the minister's wife gave religious instruction. Tanti Jean approached Tamara quietly to see what was going on. Through a hole in the wall, she saw her husband with the minister's hand on his shoulder in a too familiar stance. She craned her neck and listened as she heard the minister say, "Well done, Gunny. Thanks for the free coconuts from the plantation. I will sell them at the bazaar later this week and make a good profit for the church." Tanti Jean was incensed. "He up to your tricks again. Thank God I so cautious in finding out how that minister crooked. And look how he have his hand on Gunny. Next thing he gonna put a move on him and blackmail him into keeping quiet." Tanti Jean tottered back to her house and sat in stunned silence. The gossip network could never hear of this. If it were anybody else's husband but who, she would have a bombshell. But now she had to keep her mouth shut. She knew there were people only too happy to have something salacious and spicy on her family. It's only now she realized when you meddle in other people's business, how life would come back to bite you in the ass. Well, Gunny came back to the house. Tanti Jean lit right into him. "You thieving coconut from where you're working to give the minister for free? You ain't know he go sell them and keep the church money for himself? That way no paper trail to implicate him. I find out he do that in Caroni and blackmail the farmer saying he go tell people they had relations. Why he can't buy coconut at a discount from the plantation? Or give Sing in the market a little sale? And why he had you in the Mara? He lay a hand on you? I find out he does do Batman thing, and he carrying on with Sumitra at the same time too. You is a stupid man. It's you who go get fired from your job if they find out. And he go hold that over your head. You know that line from the Mighty Duke Calypso called Woman Bacchanal? Tie your child in the girl belly, meaning drop your plan? Well, you better drop that crooked minister, you hear? You better quit the job and go by my brother in Grandy and work before the minister gets you to thief more and you get catch out. Imagine the shame the children and me go have to live with here. From then on, Tanti Jean became quiet. She was not as jovial, free, and easy as before, and she no longer dedicated herself to spreading gossip. Now she truly had something to hide. Like Jean sick, the market ladies conjectured. Yes, ever since she taking that day in the market, she and herself. And lately we are hearing what going on in the neighborhood and all. Tanti Jean stopped going to church too, and whenever she see the minister coming, she turned away. She also stopped the children religious instruction and sent them to the market every Saturday to sell her fig. She gave Gunny an ultimatum: go Grandy by her brother and work in his company, where he could have an eye kept on him at all times and send her all the money he made, or she would tell on him and the minister. She, being an avid gossiper, her husband believed her threat. He went to Grandy. Eventually, the minister got transferred to Sando, where he continued his licentious and crooked ways. Not only was he up to his old tricks in defrauding innocent vendors of their goods so he could pocket church funds earmarked for said goods, but he got his young black housekeeper pregnant. Well, in her, he at last met his match. She demanded money to keep quiet, and when his money ran out, she told on him anyway. The mission retired him quick, and sent him packing up to the cold north where he come from. When Tanti Jean heard this, she say, "Damn good for he. I hope the chinky silk fig he carrying in his pants freeze and fall off. Because if he was still here, I would have cut it off one time. He would have never used that quail up four-stripe thing to blackmail anybody again." The end. Thank you.
Thank you. Thank you, Heather. I always enjoy your stories. Any comments?
Well, I always admire the way Heather keeps a Trinidad accent and keeps a love for Trinidad Bacchanal, you know. Heather come from a prominent family associated with that church from Canada, you know.
Yeah,
So,
my grandparents and my parents would not be proud.
so I'm wondering if, you know, if Heather wasn't divulging some inside information. And Heather, you see this thing you're talking about, that dry up frizzled twig? All right, we could talk about that.
Well, the first thing I see when I look up Moti Lal and Frank have the same expression on it. Frank, let me hear what you have to say.
No, well, that part of the oil fields in Apex remind me of Desmond Tutu's quote when he said, when the Europeans first came to South Africa, they had the Bible and we had the land. They said, let us pray. And when we opened our eyes, they had the land and we had the Bible.
Yes, yeah.
That's exactly what happened there.
That happened to my grandfather. So yeah, I always put that little thing in the stories, you know.
I saw that.
Yeah.
Excellent story.
Thank you, thank you.
Heather, can you show the book again? Is that on okay, is that on
No,
How
it's not. And
someone
it's
get
no.
it?
These are privately. This is just something I'm working for myself. I haven't put it on anywhere yet.
Okay, I love the cover
Yeah,
photo.
it's a series of 3. I showed Motilal the other day. I have 2 others, and one of them is just village life. This one is secrets and scandals, and then the other one has to do with family. So, yeah, they're a series of little short stories. So this
Okay.
one is this is a spicy one. Yeah.
And it's been completed, the 3 series.
Yeah. Yeah. So it's just to go forward now and see what I'm going to do with them. I can't really, because these are for myself, I
Mhm.
took images off the net for the artwork, but I can't do that if I'm publishing because I have to get the artist's permission.
Yeah.
Yeah. So I just, that's just for myself so far.
Heather,
Okay. Well, let
Heather,
us know if they're privately available for sale or how we can get them.
Yeah. Well, I could do these up.
Get them from you.
Yeah, I could do these up and I'll just mail them down to you. Yeah, I'll do a series and send it out to you guys, you and Motilal and whoever else wants them.
Yeah,
I think
would love to have them.
Krishna was trying to say something there.
yeah, Gersham,
Krishna?
I see. Actually, it's not me, it's Altia was wondering, Heather, I'm seeing it in the chat. How did you come up with the title of that story, Heather? Tell us something about Makome.
Oh, yeah, well, being Makoshious is being like a busybody and a snoop. So the Makomare is the female version, I suppose, of somebody who's Makoshious. Is that really a word? I think when
Well,
I looked it up, it's a word, yeah.
I know
Yes.
Makome to be somebody like a buddy, somebody you're close to also now.
Oh yeah.
I say, I'm going by my Makome. You know, somebody I could confide with, somebody close.
yes. Yes, because in Calypso, the Makume is the close friend who's supposed to keep your secret.
Probably goes and tells everybody anyway.
Well,
Mak-
you know what, then I think it's a fitting title because in the end she kept her husband's secret.
Yes, because the Mighty Duke had a Calypso, you know. Big Bacchanal the other day with Enid and Shimakume. And you could probably Google the Mighty Duke and you would hear that Calypso.
Mhm. Thanks, Mutilal. And with that, we're going to allow Mutilal to have the floor because he is next. Mutilal Budu Singh will be reading a new story, Mousy from Barrackpore.
Okay, thank you, Gusha, and thanks everybody. And just before I read the story, Frank was asking about Mousa in a correspondence with me, and Frank, Mousa is Mosey's husband. Okay, here goes. Mosey from Barakpo. Not too long ago, there was a beautiful and fashionable and not so old woman in the tongue of Barakpo who was well versed in the ways of the world. We called her Mosey. She ran a restaurant and bar and had working for her a bevy of young, curvaceous, and full bosom girls, the young as well as the not so young, and even some elderly men flocked to her bar. For a price, a pleasure seeking man could secure the companionship of one of these alluring and sultry models, as they were called. There was also in that same city a robber and a thief named Samson, so called because he was a strong, handsome, and well built. He used to enter people's homes at night and rob at will. The villagers assembled and complained to the police sergeant, who himself was a patron of Mosey's establishment and also a friend of Samson. When their grievances were ignored, they sought the help of the police commissioner, who was at that time the head of an evangelical church. The commissioner liaised with the head of the army and they ordered that soldiers and policemen be posted everywhere in Barakpo. Samson was caught and Mosey's business fell into lean times. Peace and quiet returned to Barakpo. Now Mosey was standing at her window and looking on the street when she saw Samson being arrested. He was muscularly built, handsome features, and she fell in love with him at first sight. She reflected, if I could have that attractive hunk of a man, I will give up this bad life of mine and live respectably with him. For now that her business enterprises had dried up, she, as many before had done, had turned to religion. Now Mosey, unlike Samson, had been saving up her money and had huge investments in property and jewelry and money in the bank. Indeed, her jewelry were worth millions, as she loved dressing up. When Samson was unable to secure bail, she gained his freedom by posting several $1,000s to the courts. And then he gratefully married her, and they lived happy and in luxury for a while. The robber, after 5 or 6 months of marriage, thought, I shall never be able to stay in this one place. I can't stand being cooped up, but I can't go empty handed. Moses' jewelry are worth hundreds of thousands of dollars. I will kill her and take them. For, unlike Moses, Samson was not smitten by Cupid. So he said to her one day, Darling, when I was being arrested, I prayed to the gods and promised an offering to the secret tree god on the San Fernando Hill that if I was ever released, I would make an offering to him. I have been having bad dreams lately. It is as if he is now threatening me because I have not kept my part of the bargain. Let us go up the hill and make the offering. Moses replied, Very well, dear husband. We will prepare and send it. Samson replied, Darling, it will not do to just send it. Let us both go and present it, wearing all our ornaments and jewels, as is the custom when we are doing prayers. For this can be seen as a thanksgiving to the gods. Moses. Very well, my dearest, we will do so. He made her prepare the offerings, and together they went along with several villagers to the San Fernando Hill. When they reached the bottom of the hill, he said, My dear, the tree god, seeing this crowd of people, will not accept the offering. Let us just two of us go up and present it. She consented, and he made her carry the basket containing the flowers, parsad, and other puja ingredients. Meanwhile, he was carrying a cutlass. He said that was for preparing the baby. And when they reached the top of the hill, he set the offering at the foot of the tree, which grew beside a precipice that was as high as one could see. He then said, My dear, I have not come here to present offerings, I've come here with the intention of killing you and going away with all your ornaments and jewelry. So take them all off and make a bundle of them in your sari. Moses in surprise asked, Husband, why will you kill me? For your money and your jewelry? He laughed. Moses replied, Dear husband, remember the good I have done for you? When you were locked up and in jail, I gave up a rich man who wanted to marry to me, and I paid a large sum of money to get your bail. I have never looked at another man since we were married. Please, do not kill me. I will give you as much money and jewelry as you want, and I will be your slave. And here she begins to sing. Here is the golden necklace, emeralds and pearls. Take all and welcome, please me with your servant girls. Some of them reply in song. Fair lady, lay your jewel down, I do not weep no more. I have to kill you, for then I will be sure. Mopsy is thinking, this rascal will not spare my life. So I go have to take his life first by throwing him down the precipice. Some way I had to find a way. So she then recited two more verses. Within all my years and conscious memory, no man have I ever loved more than thee. Come hither for my last salute, receive my last embrace. For nevermore upon this earth shall we meet face to face. Samson, impatient with her delaying, said, Very well, dear, if you want to, come and embrace me for the last time. Moses walked around him in respectful salutation 3 times, kissed him, and said, Now, husband, I am going to bow to you on all your sides, as is the tradition of my religion. Samson said, Okay, but hurry up. I don't have much time. She put her head on his foot, bowed at his sides, and went behind him as if to bow there. Then, with the strength and determination of a desperate woman facing certain death, she took him by his feet and threw him head over heels to his destruction. He was crushed to pieces and died on the spot. Seeing this deed, The tree god who lived on the mountaintop spoke these verses. Cunning is not only confined to men, wiser than the male are the women. So Moses killed Samson. When she came down from the mountain and came down among her attendants, they asked her where her husband was. She said, "He's up the hill still. He has much to atone for, and he may be there for many, many days." Moses then proceeded to her home. Thank you. You know, man scorpion bad, but woman scorpion, man's centipede bad, but woman centipede more bad. Thank you.
Thank you so much, Mutilal. What a story. Any comments?
Well, Motilal, she just like my macrame, she fix him good.
You know the calypso, man centipede bad, but woman centipede more bad.
Yeah.
A little while I was on a little slumpy, and this is now I started to get back in my speed now. I think I'm back to my normal writing.
Okay.
Hi, Althea.
Is this story published already?
No, this is a new thing. I
Okay.
still am doing some editing and working on it. This is something new.
Yeah. Is it based on a folk tale or?
Yes, it's loosely based on uh something that my grandmother is a story that my grandmother used to tell us. She used to tell us these
Okay.
good
Yeah.
stories, these frightening
Yeah.
stories. It's loosely based
Yeah.
on that, yes.
Okay. Yeah.
But I try to use the local setting in that
Yeah. Yeah.
we had this, we had a woman named Mousy in Barapa, which is a town near where I live, who used to run a
Yeah.
place like this. And then we had
Okay.
another guy who was he was a car thief, and they get together.
Okay. Okay. Well, I grew up listening to a lot of folk tales that my father told me, and I've tried to turn some of these folk tales into stories or, create modern versions. So that is another source that we can use to write short stories so that they don't get lost.
Yes, and as you say, history repeats itself. There's nothing new under the sun. So
Yeah,
that
yeah,
human nature, you'd always have this type of thing happening.
yeah, yeah.
That is so true. That is so
Yeah.
true. Any other comments? If
Yeah,
not,
just one, just one.
okay.
One feature Motilal loves to use in his pieces is like what he got from his Indian movies now. So you have the narrative, and then he laces his narrative with a little songs,
Mhm.
lyrics. Imagine man going and kill woman, but he's singing and thing, and
Mhm.
woman going and kill man, but he's singing. Yeah, so that that's part of the tradition of Indian movies and things.
Yes, well,
You
and
know,
I say part of
with
the
song.
oral tradition.
Yeah,
I pick up that from my grandmother. And whenever my
correct.
Yeah,
grandmother used to tell stories, she used to always have
That
a little song in between.
yeah,
Mostly it
lacing
would
it.
be of a religious
Mhm.
nature, like
Yeah,
from the Ramayana and all that, a line or two from the Ramayana. But I pick up that, and then within recent times, to looking at a lot of Greek theater and observing the chorus and all that. So I'm trying to incorporate all this in my storytelling.
but this
But
this one song more like chutney.
but it's true. I mean,
Mhm.
it's not only in Bollywood movies. I mean, even in opera. How long does it take a guy to die after he stabbed himself? You know, in Puccini's Madame Butterfly,
Yes,
she sang a whole aria before she actually fell down and died.
yes, right. Indeed, indeed. I remember seeing Madame Butterfly in London.
Yeah.
Lovely. Okay, so we're going to go ahead and allow Vishnu to have the floor. He's going to read two poems, A River Flows and What the Car Said. Vishnu?
Vishnu, you need to unmute.
There.
There we go.
All right, the first one I'm going to read is called A River Flows. And this morning of beauty, below my window, this cottage, a stream meanders untouched. I knew not its origin. I look, white pebbled, clear, leafy water, shallow, that exposes its depth, its source, I think, that hill above, that hill, cloudy peak hidden, a slow, soft, gurgling waterfall. Lined greenery touches the ground. Decorations, rare in these parts, sprinkle like twinkling stars. I breathe deeply. And after that work, I pause my camera in narration for fear of toppling from windowsill. I listen to the gurgles soft in the air. Bubbles rise above peeping pebbles. Small oblong images drift, zigzagging. Petals I recognize journeying, and a bank of sailing whites above lingers a shadow on my camera. So pretty, like the white of an egg. Mix the clear, the yellow, the green, Tagore's Shuli flowers, or Wordsworth dancing daffodils in Harrow. I wonder. Okay, so that's the first one. Second one is called What the Car Said. Will you kindly allow me to speak my mind once and for all to you, dismissive mankind? I detest the harsh treatment you dish out to me as just an occasional somebody. Yesterday, two white cars were laughing at me, asking aloud, did I come from some old cemetery? Another was adding, why in the public smoke so black, like we are dormouse poor, flat broke, under attack? I mean, not to be harsh this cool Wednesday morning, but yesterday's behavior was definitely mentioning. You took me on a far trip, extra buck or 2 or 3. For miles raced madly, played cuss music as testimony. I wish you show some belonging and loving possession. Not make me feel we are in a long recession. I'm a car, have pride in my admirable appearance. Make me feel good, attractive, not a piece of tolerance. Thank you. What the car said.
Thanks, Vishnu. I like the term long recession. All righty. Any comments on Vishnu's piece? Oh, everyone is basically muted, so you may have to unmute to comment.
Yes, I like how Vishnu keeping up with the technology. We have talking cars.
Well,
Yeah, Althea.
yes, I think it's always interested to experiment with point of view and think of if you were the car, how would you think? Or sometimes try to envision what I have a 10-month-old baby, and sometimes I wonder, well, what's going on in his mind. And, there's that possibility to write a poem or story from his point of view, because even so young, they have their temperament, and they express annoyance. They don't have the words yet, but they show it. And it's always interesting to take a different point of view and experiment with that. And yeah, I think you'll be surprised at what comes out of it. Yeah, so what is the car thinking? What is the baby thinking, or the cat or dog in your home? Yeah.
Indeed.
That's cute. That's a nice basis for a lot of stories. We're going to go ahead and open the floor to Pam. Pam will be reading 2 poems for us. So, and I would also like to take this time to welcome a new member, Raul Ian James. So feel free to say hi to him. And did you have something to read today, Raul?
I always have poems I could read. So yeah, I would love to share a couple of pieces if that's okay.
Sure. So
I'm just enjoying this. I'm an ex-Trini, living in Toronto, Canada, grew up in the States. So I'm just soaking in all of this Trini culture, and I'm looking at these faces thinking some of us look around the same age. So you're people I might have grown up with if I'd stayed in Trinidad. So anyway, I'm just enjoying. Thank you.
Well, thanks for being here, and I'll allow you to read after Pam.
Okay, thank you.
No
Okay.
worries.
Thank you.
Pam, the floor is all yours.
Thank you. I'm going to continue in the same vein as we had a couple of poems about refugees and this trend of moving country when you have to under extenuating circumstances. So I wrote this rap poem, and the tempo is a lot faster for that reason than the others that were read. It has an intro, and that's like the it's repeated. It's called a hook in the second part, and also at the end. So it's 3 times, just a few lines that are repeated. So it's called Race to Freedom, and it starts like this. Lonely, you set off once more, desperately meeting friends to restore your faith in a distant humanity, keeping your distance from insanity, liking your freedom from responsibility, while you're still forced into humility. And you still wait for salvation and true liberation. Look at the worldwide situation. There are too many problems and too much population, moving here and there and yet nowhere, until you feel it's just not fair. Where's the sense in seeking a dream, illusions, hopes dashed time and again, years of movement pollution? Resources are scarce and dwindling. Opportunities are rapidly rescinding. You can't fail this time again, and you can't face your family in pain. Competition is great and growing. For employment, a thought worth knowing. Dictators are in abundance and latent, destroying peoples, the past and the present, changing the future in an unknown, silently crossing borders, leaving you alone. Lonely, you set off once more, desperately meeting friends to restore your faith in a distant humanity, keeping your distance from insanity, liking your freedom from responsibility, while you're still forced into humility, and you still wait for salvation and true liberation. Society no more traditional, but bent on globalization, seeing a way out of its endless tribulations, A way to earn more than back home, even though you have to do it alone. Leaving all your personal belongings behind, torn apart from family, that's unkind, but necessary to break with the past and flow with the future at last. Away from war-torn villages and poverty, into consolation, security, and productivity. You start collecting your papers, filling out forms, planning your journey away from problems and storms. You're overwhelmed with anxiety. Will it work? You have an appointment with a bureaucratic clerk. All goes well, despite numerous questions. You discuss enthusiastically and accept suggestions. And then you're on your way, unsure if you'll stay in your new surroundings. Your heart is pounding. Will it become your home? In time, will you settle down, make a new life worth living, and without misgivings? Lonely, you set off once more, desperately meeting friends to restore your faith in a distant humanity, keeping your distance from insanity, liking your freedom from responsibility, while you're still forced into humility, and you still wait for salvation and true liberation. That's that one.
Wow, very powerful pieces. Any comments?
Well, okay.
Hi,
I
Althea.
think it's in similar vein to the poems that I have written, and expressing the human condition and the desperation that maybe 1/3 of the world population feels. There's that need or that feeling that it's always greener, greener on the other side. And sometimes getting there is risky. We see these people who risk their lives, the lives of their children, and so desperate to have a new beginning. And I think that poem speaks very well to that desperation that many people feel. And it makes you grateful, those of us who are safe and secure where we are, that we are grateful where we are, but there's still, such a large population of people who are desperate to find new meaning in a new beginning, and hoping and praying that that opportunity comes to them. So, yeah, that's it from me.
Thank you.
Thanks, Althea. If there are no other comments, I'm going to go ahead and open the floor to Raul.
I was going to read a second.
Read.
I had to read a second one.
Okay, no problem.
Yeah, can
Let
I
me
just
highlight you again?
Can I start?
Certainly.
Okay. So this I wrote in 1981. The other one, I actually learned the rap style of writing poetry in a center for refugees, where many of them attended this course, and it was just 1 or 2 Saturdays a month, and it was excellent because many of the refugees wrote wonderful poems. Everyone could write in their own language because, of course, they didn't speak German or English, many of them. So, but it was very interesting to hear all the poems afterwards. So it was very exciting time for me. It was a few years ago. Yeah. But of course, it was written because a lot of these refugees, they don't just come to one country, they get moved around because no country wants them. And so I was meeting people who are like on their third journey. And this is really very sad that they can't you know. So that's was interesting. Okay, this one's totally different. When can I go home with you, to walk with you upon the path that leads to the door you call home? When can I laze on the grass with you in the long summer days when we'll have nothing to do? When will you speak soft murmurs of wishes I dreamed? Tomorrow. Tomorrow is a day I love, knowing you will be there. So it doesn't matter about today, but so many todays have passed into tomorrows that never came, and todays seem to last and last and last. Yesterday we dreamed of many things, of lost time, of futures far away. We dreamed of castles in the air and marrying lords and kings. Now those dreams are all but lost. The future's ours with nothing in it. Still we're searching for those princes on some sea on which we're tossed. That's it. Thank you.
Wow. I love the beginning.
I
When
wrote
can I
that
come
a long
home?
time ago, 1981.
Wow. And you know, it could have been written in 2024.
Yeah.
So
Yeah, definitely.
any comments? Okay. Pam, thank you so much for sharing and thank you so much for being with us.
Thank you.
I'm going to open the floor now to Raul.
Thank you so much. I was going to comment, but I figured since I had the mic next, I'll say, Pam, your poetry, like so much I've heard today, is a reminder there is nothing new under the sun. And to what our host
Yeah.
just said, it could have been written today. You know, that it was apropos in 81 when you wrote it, is still apropos today. So I did a special show yesterday for, if you look in my background and my picture, these young poets' faces that you see are current refugees in a camp in Malawi. And I held a special Zoom show for them. I produced an online show as well. But I did a special show for them to kind of introduce them to some of the other organizers that I know and just the poets and just the brilliance that lives in these camps. It's unfortunate that we have refugees, but it's nothing new under the sun.
Yeah.
We are causing it in the West. We're causing it by
Sorry?
sending. We are causing it by sending arms and creating wars.
It's more complicated than that. You know, the news makes it sound like it's one-sided in certain things. All I know is this, from understanding a bit of history: those with power will always take advantage of those that don't have power. And we're distracted with race and gender and religion and all these other things and not really want to understand that power is what governs this world. We're you know, it's funny, I just listening to this started writing a thought that I will turn into something. You know, when we speak of the ancestors, when we speak of history, we tend to only look at history from the negative side. Rarely do we ever remember the good and beautiful of history. We live in a world based on duality and contrast, so we don't just have the experience of good and beautiful. We are here to experience the bad and ugly as well, and we don't always want to accept that. So it's hard for us to hear it. But anyway, I'm just enjoying listening to this. I am just one crazy ex-Trini that's walking as best as he can and being a servant to our humanity. So I appreciate the opportunity to be here and to listen. Like I said, listen to the tales of where I was born. Yeah, so I have a couple of pieces I'll share with you. And again, thank you. This first piece that I will share is called, I just have to pull it up. Oh, Salvation of My Religion. Spoken into existence, I am drawn out of the dark into the light, birthed from the wound of imagination into a blink of linear time and space. Thy spark ignites painted thoughts, imprinting my ethos upon moments in this maze of duality and ignorance, living the trials of tribulation's design. A servant to the pen, poetry my tool. At the convergence of feelings and reason, logic and emotion stand at the ready, for it is neither intellect nor profound. Within the communion of memories, chaos finds comfort at death's door, while a symphony of thunder and lightning serenade the salvation of my religion. End of piece. And then this last piece I will share with you is a piece that I wrote trying to just highlight the craziness of our lives. And to me, at the end of the day, there's a reverence about being human that sometimes that we forget. So this piece is To Be Human. I was asked the other day by a good friend, are you feeling burnt out? And without thinking, I quickly replied, no. Why do you ask? As I pushed back at my friend's question. She said, don't get me wrong. You look good, but tired. My knee-jerk no was me being triggered. But why did I? Was there truth in what was asked? And if so, why was I triggered? And if there was no truth, why did I get triggered? Truth be told, I am tired. I'm tired of the illusion of the fight. Women's issues, gender equality, indigenous rights, racism, religious freedoms, economic equality, sexual freedom, identity, politics, climate change, global warming, wealth gap disparity. Did I miss anything? All I see is humans denying humans. And that's what exhausts me. It drains my empathy like a vampire latched onto my neck. I feel depleted of intellect as I wrestle with the big question nestled deep in my being. What does it mean to be human? Like where the cats meow. From above looking down, no color could be seen or gender identified, just maybe a speck. Yet us versus them has us trapped in a prison of imaginary lines. Parliamentary democracy, republic, communism, green, liberal, libertarian, socialism, progressive. We're all under gravity's totalitarian control on this not so flat earth. Now, gravity may deny my ability to soar with the birds, and my eyes may not be as sharp as when I was a younger man, but I only see humans denying humans. So maybe I am tired. Maybe I am burnt out, but I still believe in the illusion. I haven't lost hope. What does it mean to be civilized and intelligent as we spin 460 meters per second in this, the paradox of the good, the bad, the ugly, and the beautiful? To me, that's what it means to be human. End of piece. Blessing, poets. Thank you so much.
Wow, thank you. Thank you. I only see humans denying humans. What a great line.
Yeah.
Any comments?
That's also the line that jumped out at me, Raul. Very eloquent. And by the way, I'm living in Canada as well, and so is Frank. Frank's in Ontario, and I'm in New Brunswick.
I'm in Toronto, so thank you for those kind words, though.
Okay.
Althea?
I thought it's quite thought-provoking because then the poem makes us reflect on ourselves and how are we responding to all of these things that are triggering us every day. And sometimes we feel helpless because there's just so much going on. And as I said, we're only human. We can't fix everything. And so we try our best to survive or do our little bit to make this world a better place. Yeah. Yeah, it does make one reflect on one's situation or role in this world and think about what can we do? How can we respond to it? Or can we respond to it? We have different ways of responding to these situations. Our survival mechanism, I say. Okay,
Yeah.
so thank you for sharing.
You're welcome.
Thank you. Any other comments?
Well, I put up my hand, but it came back down.
Oh,
I
okay.
just, I just wanted
I
to
didn't
say
see.
that this afternoon has been quite a treat because I thought I couldn't make it. I thought that the literary friendship would have taken longer. But it's a good thing I was here because I've enjoyed everyone's contributions and a lot of soul searching came out and thanks a lot. I'm glad I made it. Congrats to everybody.
Well, we are glad you're here, Cynthia. Do you have anything to read for us today? No, we were chatting earlier.
I wonder if I have enough time. Do you think?
So this is the decision I guess we should make as a group. The interview with George R. Martin and Stephen King, that's about 55 minutes long. So even if we start it at 2:30, it will take the meeting to 3:30, and then we have to leave room for discussion. So
So
we
the
can
ball is in your court.
You know, we always love to hear Cynthia.
All right.
exactly. So I
I'll-
I
think
vote.
we can, if
I
we
vote for
want,
Cynthia.
yep, if we would like, we can push once more, we can push back Stephen King and George R. Martin to a later date, or we can set up a different time and date specifically for that screening. And we can continue on with the open mic and open the floor for anyone wanting to share a second time till 3:30.
Well,
Well,
I really like to hear Cynthia because there was a time before she was going to do something and it didn't work. So I'm looking forward to hearing what her work is like.
Oh yeah, we're definitely going to hear Cynthia. It's just that I'm trying to gauge if you guys are willing to push back the interview or if you still want to do the interview and run the meeting later into a later time.
Oh, I'm willing to push back the interview.
Okay. Anyone else second that?
Yeah.
Okay, lovely. So then what we will do, we will go ahead and hear Cynthia's reading and we will play the interview sadly at another time. But it's always there on YouTube for us to play. So it's not going to be too much of a loss. And if anyone else wants to read after Cynthia, we still have about we still have the floor until 3 o'clock. All right.
Yep.
So Cynthia, the floor is yours.
thank you very much. As usual, I have a way of just rambling on. Krishna knows because I've sent him some things that were just things that crossed my mind. So a piece I did in 2022 and I rediscovered a little while ago. It's the languages of my life. The languages of my life. Early on the morning of my 81st birthday, I was fortunate to catch an interview on Hard Talk, BBC World. Stephen Sacker was speaking to Gregory Doran, artistic director of the Royal Shakespeare Company, and the role that Doran had played in that company over a lengthy period. It suddenly hit me that I would like to set down my thoughts on the languages that have pervaded and influenced my life, my thoughts, my development, shaping the person that I have become. One after the other, the thoughts came tumbling into my brain. Thoughts of all sorts come to me early in the morning. Languages. I am not conscious of any period in my life when words and language did not feature. Between late 1941 and early 1942, the years of World War II and blimps flying overhead, my family was in Tobago, West Indies. At some point when I was 2 or 3, I remember writing to my aunts in Port of Spain. My letters did come over to them, since in more recent times I came across one of them written in large, crabby writing, but indeed written. I recall that while writing, I sometimes had to run from the living area in the Scarborough Methodist manse to Mummy or Daddy to ask how to spell a word. You see, I know that I was not yet 4 years old because we were transferred by the Methodist Church to Castries, St. Lucia, where I turned 4, 2 months after the birth of my sister Leonie in June 1945. The advantage we had was that our conversation was just that. Not baby talk, just normal conversation with normal vocabulary, words big or small. That exposure is vital for the development of a child's brain, vocabulary, and mental images. Then, when we were in Port of Spain with the extended family of aunts, maybe an uncle, and our grandparents, that's where I live right now in Port of Spain, there was conversation at the dinner table. Conversation is another vital component of mental development. How else would our brain expand to absorb new thoughts and ideas? Good friends of yesteryear visited, and again, there was always conversation. School. Going to school was a great adventure for me. I do not recall really learning anything much at age 6 when I first attended a kindergarten for a few months. Well, with the itinerant life we led, it was the prep at St. Joseph Convent in Castries, St. Lucia, where I must have learnt the Hail Mary and some catechism. In my opinion, no harm was done because I learnt the Hail Mary there, and since I feel at home in a Roman Catholic church, Anglican, or Methodist church, or any other place of worship for that matter. By the time I started high school, I had been introduced to French and had fallen hopelessly in love. That love affair was to last my entire life. I am forever thankful that the limiting invention of a set syllabus was not the norm in my early years, because in the prep of the St. Joseph Convent, San Fernando, an Irish nun, Sister Patrick Cannock, started to teach us French. I was fascinated with French. Although my prowess in the language has been nothing to boast or write about, my love for French has never left me. When we were transferred to Barbados in 1955, I was fortunate that 2 teachers devoted some of their vacation to coaching me in French. Sorry about the fire brigade. Yes, 2 teachers devoted some of their vacation to coaching me in French. They were Miss Molly Jack and Miss Nella Tate of the then St. Michael'sville School. That school in Barbados eventually became co-ed. Such was their commitment that I got up to speed and topped the school's results in the O-level exams. With my love for French and reasonable command of English, it was therefore not too difficult to grapple with Spanish in Form 3 with Mrs. Olive Branca. So I topped that school in Spanish too at that level. I did not pass math or geography, but if you see my personal budget on a spreadsheet now, you might doubt the veracity of that statement. My ability to survive on almost no income is legendary, but that is another story. At the juncture of having enough passes to proceed to Form 6, there was another stumbling block to overcome. St. Michael's girls had at that time no sixth form. So it was arranged that a few of us would sit an entrance exam to go to Queen's College. I'm going to jump ahead. These twists and turns form an integral part of my existence. To describe my life as one big adventure is accurate. At the end of the school year, I even sat Latin and passed. Now, music. When it comes to music, where shall I begin? With a mother who was a pianist and organist, and a father who had a pretty good tenor voice, and a church-going family, there is no need really to specify how music entered my life. Music was always there. So there were the classics, Methodist hymns. My mother took us downtown to hear Pan Around the Neck Steel Band in Port of Spain. Much later on, it was the steel orchestras in which I reveled to see how far they had developed, and then jazz. On my own, I developed a love for jazz. So it is no wonder that the shutdown of the COVID-19 pandemic was not a tremendous hardship to me. Once my sound engines could function, I enjoyed music. I am reading. Yes. But how do you listening to music is one thing, but listening to music and interpreting it at a deeper level is quite another. When I have mentioned listening to music, at least two of my friends, just put it out there, please, Alaki. I'm reading on a Zoom. Yes, thanks. Thank you. When I have mentioned listening to music to at least two of my friends, their response has been that the radio is on most of the time. At that juncture, I say no more, or I might ask, but do you listen to music? I am not too sure that they understand what I am asking, so I keep my own counsel. So, yes, the language of music is vital to me. Conversation. The languages of conversation are of no less importance. One learns to communicate at the level needed in different circumstances, but there is not much satisfaction in exchanges which have little or no depth. There is so much to be derived from deeper exchanges. Some make one think or feel far more than what is apparent on the surface. A number of years ago, I was at tea with a group of friends, and one asked me why I was not talking. My reply was that I was listening. Sorry about that interruption. It was that somebody chose just the time I was reading to call me. But this afternoon, I have been very happy to listen to all these thoughts. They have been wonderful and very deep. So thanks a lot for giving me the opportunity to read.
Thank you, Cynthia. Any comments? I see Mutilal clapping. Please unmute and give a comment.
Well, listening to that, um, listening to Cynthia tells me that Cynthia is a well-rounded and complete lady. Thank you.
Thank you, Motilal.
Cynthia, I thoroughly enjoyed your reading. Thank you so much.
You're welcome, Heather.
Oh, sorry, I was on mute. Cynthia was saying, I love the line on my ability to survive on no income. I thought that was just amazing because I mean, I know it's just one line, but it just feels like it just gives so much depth and insights into the person, this
Some of
bohemian.
us, some of us, older pensioners are suffering. I remember Clinton Bernard was trying to address it.
Mhm.
They didn't take him on at all. He just died. So I'm still fighting to live with what I can do.
Yeah. Yeah. Any other comments, Krishna or Vishnu?
No, as I said, I read Cynthia's piece when she posted it. And while she was reading it, I was enumerating 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6. I saw 6 types of languages that she mentioned: English, French, Spanish, Latin, music, and most of all, conversation. The art of conversation, is a dying art. I myself am not a conversationalist. I'm very shy. I don't talk. I don't initiate things. I may respond if called upon. If called upon, I may respond. But the art of conversation, you try talking to these children nowadays. Mm? Right. Grunts. It's grunts and groans and gestures. Not so, Pam. I see you smiling. What I'd like to add also, well, there are a couple of persons on. I see Vilma, Diana, and Safia. I don't know if you want to open to them, but just to add to what Cynthia is saying, that today's session, you got a variety of material. And I just want to add too, and this is material presented in a variety of forms. Like the one I found most interesting was Pam's rap. I wanted to ask Pam, watching you, I can't associate you with rap, but you mentioned how it came out. And you gave it, you got the rhythm and the rhyme. I was just wondering if you was hearing a beat while you were rendering it. Somebody could have been doom, 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 whatever, to get the rap. So there was the rap, there was the haiku that I introduced. There was the unusual use of the car and the personification used by Vishnu, using everyday subjects. People say poetry. People have misguided notions of poetry. Poetry has to do with the beautiful. Poetry has to do with the sublime. But you can use everyday objects, as I think it was Altia who said, to get the different perspective of things that we take for granted. You have to say it's like the mundane, You wouldn't expect somebody to write a poem about a car, but there was Vishnu writing about the car and using the personification, use of the personification to say something more about that mundane object. And they have the love poem, the lyrical poem by Pam also, and Rawls' imagistic pieces. Well, the first one, Salvation of My Religion, I saw as very imagistic. The other one, To Be Human, was more expressive, the voice and the use of the dialogue, in it. So I just wanted to reinforce what Cynthia said. We got a variety of the material, and this was presented in a variety of means. That's all I wanted to add. But yeah, Gosha, there are 3 others. I don't know if you want to open the floor.
I'd certainly open for anyone that wants to share next.
I have a short excerpt from my book, The Peripatetic Skylark.
Oh yes, sorry, and Frank too.
Certainly, Frank.
Well, it's about Seamus was the protagonist. The protagonist, his name is Charlie. And at this point in the book, Charlie was about 12 years old, 13. And Seamus, who belonged to the Presbyterian Church in Trinidad, discovered that in just a short while, the big 4-H event was going to be held, and Charlie hadn't prepared an animal for this event. And so they chased a feral rooster in the yard to get him to take us to the event in Princess Town at the church. So I'll read from there. One day, Seamus realized that the biggest 4-H event of the year would be held the following Saturday afternoon. He had been pestering Charlie to look after one of the feral roosters they had been nurturing in the yard, a robust rooster that had appeared out of nowhere as a small chick. It was aggressive and it held its own in any scrap with the neighbor's poultry. It strutted around the yard with tail feathers erect. Accordingly, it boasted a concubine of all 4 neighbors' complements of hens. It was always threading, morning, noon, and night, Seamus used to say to his wife. Man, that cock could thread for so. When observing the copulation between their rooster and a hen, Charlie, 13 years old, innocently asked Seamus, "What was the cock doing? Why are they fighting like that, Dad?" Seamus felt a certain incompetence in describing the phenomenon in language appropriate to the boy's age and sexual development. "Don't worry with that," Seamus said, brushing him off. He pronounced all 4 words in quick succession, so they all sounded like one word. Then he diverted Charlie's attention to a doctor bird that had just alighted on a flower and was seeking nectar. Charlie had a rather precocious interest in biology, and his attention was quickly diverted to the brilliance of the doctor bird's colors, which spanned the visible spectrum. "Hey, boy, hey," Seamus threatened. "Ain't I tell you to look after the damn cock and clean it up for the 4-H exhibition this afternoon?" Charlie said, "I can't catch the fall, man." The 4-H Club was having its most important exhibition of the year at the Canadian Mission School grounds that Saturday. A renowned panel of judges from the city, made up of the Minister of Youth, the principal of the Agricultural College, a foreign dignitary from the United Church of Canada, would assess each student's project for a prestigious prize. The honor conferred bragging rights for the rest of the year, not only for the local school, but for the family of the deserving student. It was a very competitive event. For months, each club member would meticulously nurture his or her charge, be it plant or animal. Animal husbandry and horticultural skills were to be judged. The competition was fierce. Charlie was forced to take something, anything, to the exhibition to be judged, and he would be quizzed by the judges. He was embarrassed in front of his good-for-nothing knockabouter friends because he would lose an afternoon of skylarking by putting in time on his project. The diligent 4-H kids had all done their research and were prepared academically. They knew the scientific name of the plant or animal they were showing, its pedigree, its natural history, its ecology. They were all versed in how to optimize the quantity of their specimens, and they were ready for the judges' questions. If a student was picked as one of the top 5 competitors, he or she was to be drilled via an oral exam by the panel of judges. "This is a big thing, you know," Seamus said as he tried to motivate Charlie. Seamus and Charlie chased down the rooster and cornered it, both of them hunched over with arms spread like Daedalus' son Icarus before flight. They trapped the cock between the fence and a pile of rotting wood in the backyard. They took it, squawking and flapping to the public standpipe in front of the house and washed off all the mud and debris from its feathers. Each part of it was cleaned and scrubbed with blue soap and water. "And you know," Charlie would later excitedly tell his mom, "the fowl ended up looking pretty for so. I couldn't get over how brilliant the feathers looked in the sun and how yellow the feet turned out and how red the reds in the combs were. That blue soap could clean anything With no further ado, except for giving Charlie some last-minute tips on answering questions the panel might pose, Seamus sent him packing to the schoolyard, a good 25-minute walk in the hot 2 o'clock sun. Charlie held a rooster at arm's length for fear that fowl shit, fleas, and chicken odor might become part of his personal signature. When he arrived at the bazaar, there were already hundreds of people milling around, taking in all the exhibitions. The stalls that sold drinks, and particularly those that vended snow cones, were uninviting because of the long queues. Everyone was in a festive mood, their brilliant colored shirts and pants adding to the carnival-like atmosphere. Charlie felt out of place, dressed in an old pair of pants and a top that easily could have been classified as a bus-up shot. His washikong was still covered with mud and from the battle capturing and washing the rooster. His dada head looked like it had not seen a comb for days, and he had for days, but he had the battle of the cock to blame for that. He reminded himself of the Trinidadian saying, "Boy, cockroach have no right in fowl party." He brazenly took his place in the lineup where the panel was to inspect the 40 or so exhibitors from the 4-H club. The girl beside him was decked out in a Sunday best, her hair embellished with a wide red ribbon. Her skinny black legs had been rubbed down and groomed with coconut oil as they shone in the sun. Not a single cloud hid the sun, and so the heat was oppressive. No breeze gave even a measure of comfort to the diligent club members. Many squinted from the glare and stretched their necks looking for any sign of the panel's arrival. Every so often, someone would hopefully discern a group of 3 in the distance and announce, "I think they're coming, I think they're coming." All competitors straightened up and primed their prized goat, sheep, rabbit, or pig with a final brushing. Charlie simply held the rooster a little further from his chest. The competitors spent 2 long hours in the heat before the panel arrived. The panel sauntered around slowly, inspecting each animal and questioning the owner about the technical aspects of its care and the biology of the specimen. At least 4 minutes was spent with each exhibitor. The members of the panel smiled and nodded in appreciation at every interview, encouraging and reassuring the contestants. They walked with their hands behind their backs like Prince Philip in a walkabout. They slumped slightly forward as they looked with anticipation at the next in line. The girl to the left of Charlie presented a beautiful, well-groomed calf to the judges. She expounded on the animal's pedigree and the chemical makeup of its feed. She answered the panel's questions with confidence, charm, and a practiced smile. They spent a little more than 10 minutes with her. Finally, it was Charlie's turn. His hands extended even further as he presented the washed and scrubbed feral cock to the judges. 3 baffled faces confronted Charlie and his rooster. Charlie's cock chose at that moment to become flaccid. It fell asleep as if it was ill with some kind of bird flu. With the judges abreast of Charlie, they simply walked on by, pausing their strides slightly, nodded at him, and as if it was all rehearsed, they all grunted in unison, "Uh-huh." They walked by him to the next competitor. He recounted later to his mom. "Man, I was so vexed. I was vexed for so too bad. I let go a long stoops and the judges didn't even ask me my name, especially after I burned up in that hot sun waiting for them. I immediately leave that stupid line and headed back home. Man, I was too embarrassed to have any of my friends see me walking down the street with a chicken in my arms, So I tucked the fowl in my shirt up against the skin of my chest. The damn thing shit all over my chest and armpit. I take all kinds of shortcuts through bushes, along the river, through people's yards, hiding with shame. When I reach home, I gave that cock one good drop kick and sent him flying for parts unknown. That's just an excerpt.
Thank you for sharing. Any comments?
I always find Frank's work very entertaining. Of course, I have the book that this excerpt comes from, so it's one of my bedside table books. When I can't sleep at night, Frank, I'm going through your book.
Hello?
I feel like I was
Hello?
I feel like I was a kid sat on a Sunday night listening to Masterpiece Theater, being transported back to being a boy in Trinidad, listening to a story through the radio and imagining, because I have a mental image of, for those that live in Ontario, we have the CNE at the end of the summer, and they used to have a big agricultural exhibit. So I can imagine people waiting for the judges to come around to so it just the imagery and the story. You're a really good storyteller, really good storyteller. So yeah, for a moment there, I felt like I was transported back to that time listening, where we actually gathered around the radio to listen to stuff. So
I remember that.
yes, well done, well done.
Thank you. Vilma, you had a comment? Hi, Vilma, you had a comment?
Oh, yeah. I have a short poem. I don't know if I could read it.
You certainly can, but let me just finish up with getting Frank's comments on his piece.
Okay,
And I'll call you next. Thank you.
thanks.
Any comments on Frank's piece? Frank, the only thing I don't like in the end is when he kicked the
Well, he was a 13-year-old boy and mad as hell. The judges didn't even pay attention to him. They walked by and said, "Uh-huh."
Mutilality.
You see,
But that's
Gusha, in
probably what
those
it-
times,
Sorry.
we never used to talk about animal rights. But I like Frank use of language because he take me right back to when I was a little boy. And I like the way he Frank, I don't know whether this was intentional. I'm sure it was intentional. You talk about the man placid cock. Flaccid cock.
Mhm. Well, I
That's
think
the
that's
Lord,
what
Frank.
I
Well,
think a
Heather
13-year-old boy would
talked about that
probably
little
kick.
banana.
I think a 13-year-old boy would be that angry that he might kick his cock that way.
Yes.
And I loved how you skirted around the real life issues of sex with adults and their children, because
Yes.
we constantly skirt around sex when it's something that is
Yes.
natural, that it should, maybe if we took time to really understand it and appreciate it ourselves and stop fearing it and being shameful of it, we might pass it on to our children. But I just love the way you captured it, how you
Yes.
skirt by, because that's exactly what
Change the topic.
my father would have said the same thing, except in a
thing.
harsher way.
Okay, that was great, Frank.
Where's your book available for sale?
Actually, it's not. It's the book I wrote and published many years ago. But so it's not anywhere. But I could send copies to anybody if they want.
Okay,
I would love a copy.
Okay,
I do have
right
copies.
now, give it to Krishna. Krishna is reading it right now.
Uh,
So
I
maybe
read
you
it.
could
I
get it
read it.
from either me or Krishna.
I read it, Moti. I have it here for you.
Okay,
Whenever.
all right. What are these pass out for Krishna?
Okay, so Krishna, you could pass it along to me. It'll be the traveling book, like the traveling box.
Well, Krishna could pass it on to you.
Lovely. All right, so let's go to Vilma because she would like to read for us. Vilma, the floor is all yours.
Thank you. I hope I don't bore you all. Okay, so the poem I have here is entitled When I Was Small by Vilma Susanka. When I was small, I was not all that tall. From another child, I was not much different. But when time to play, I was very reverent. I went to school with quite a few others, and sure, it was no bother. Most of them had spending money. They bought snacks for themselves and some for me. At school, I knew I was brighter than my peers. By age 9, I was in standard 4 upstairs. But alas, I had no teacher in that class. For a year, I sat with older children like a lost lass. When I did pass common entrance, I felt so cool. I was one of the 3 who passed for a 5-year secondary school. All the others who didn't have that luck went to the 3-year junior sec. A 5-year college tenure is a real challenge for someone who is utterly poor. But miracles do happen sometimes, and I experienced one. I did pass my 5. What a reasonable job. I felt so alive. There was no need to migrate for me to any foreign, bitter, cold state. Thank you so much.
I like that. I really do. Thank you. Any other comments?
Vilma, you just explained a life that I would have lived if I had never left Trinidad.
I know, but I wanted to go where I wanted to go. It was in my heart. I want to go. Everybody's going. I want to go. But I'm
Yeah.
glad I did not go. I really
I had no choice. All I know is I got up one morning. Next thing I know, we're at at Pialco. Next thing I know, I'm in JFK, and next thing I know, I'm living in Brooklyn. So I was a kid. I had no choice. But I too passed common entrance at a very young age, and so it'd have been interesting if that other path hadn't taken off. What would have happened? So that's what I
Well,
took.
Vilma, what really resonated was the cold. You didn't have to go anywhere that was cold.
And that's the only reason why I'm happy that I never went. That's the only because the life up there is really nice. Yeah, enjoy everything else, but the cold,
It's not that bad.
really.
Yeah, it is. Yeah.
But
Do you guys
it
mind
is
if
something that
Do you
I
mind
think
if I go next, because I have to leave? I have a crazy Trini mother waiting for me to feed me callaloo.
yes,
Oh,
we
lucky
normally
you.
end at 3. So I would just like to do a quick shameless plug of our book, Poetry and Prose. We have an anthology, Musings in a Tea Shop, and it can be found on Amazon. So if you like our work, you can also pick this up, and you'd be able to read stories from everyone in our group, those who are also not here who haven't read. And we will close off with our newest member and on his piece.
Oh, I thought you guys were going to continue on. So, okay. No,
No,
thank you.
we normally close at 3. So, but
Okay.
if you'd like to read, you can be the last reader.
All right. Thank you. I'll do that then. Appreciate the honor. And once again, this was a very enjoyable Sunday afternoon for me. So thank you so much. I'll close with 2 pieces, relatively small. A lot of the work I do around being a leadership coach is helping people to figure out who they really are. And a number of men I've been working with over the last few years have been struggling, trying to understand what it means to be a man in today's world. So this is the piece I wrote called In Grace with My Father's Shadow. There was a time when I walked in my father's looming shadow. My past cast bolts of blame as I cried tears in desolation. My suffering weighted me down. It fueled my toxic memories as I hid in plain sight from the man in the mirror. Self-loathing was the norm as dreams dissipated into my doubts. Overloaded by the logic of insanity, I turned to liquid courage for hope. No peace at the end of bottle's end. I was running on empty. Tears flowed from the boy within, trapped in my victim's story. Like the sands of time, I fell into a fog of false forgiveness that masked my self-imposed feud, all the while longing for acceptance. Afraid to be alone, lost in the crowd, I was desperate for a connection. Vulnerability, shame cheered on the volcanic anger that guarded. In the hand of my father's name, heart burdened, I bore the cross, no wise, being weak unacceptable, for it was my time to stand as a man. Then a sign, a lighthouse of a voice, a distraction asking me, are you ready? Are you ready to be your light above the horizon, the answer to all your questions? My chameleon no longer needed. I was the rebirth of resilience dust, the pen, my sword of my warrior's soul, as my poetry bellowed forth with purpose. Hear my raw. I am the naked muse, my mame of dreads rooted in new soil, standing tall in the cycles of life, in grace with my father's shadow. End of piece. Actually, I think I will end it with that piece. Thank you very much again, fellow poets and writers. Thank you so much.
Thank you. Any comments? Thanks. I think it was a powerful piece, especially reflecting today's society with so many toxic masculinity out there and other things that are in conflict with traditional values. So thanks for sharing.
Yeah, thank you for that. I tend to push back a little when I hear toxic masculinity, because if there's toxic masculinity, there must be toxic femininity.
Oh, there is. But that's a
Because
conversation for another day.
no, because my thing is, who's raising these men? And it's usually our women. So my thing is, let's stop doing that to each other, because
Mm.
it's actually not helping us. There are other ways we can talk, but these what it's not so much the term is that people don't know where these terms come from. That's a very academic term that came out of academia without any kind of surroundings for you to understand what it means. It's the same thing with critical race theory. So it actually just it really more than muddies the water in our society when we use terms like that. That's one of the reasons I tend to push back, because it's really destroying a lot of positive conversations that we could be having.
Interesting.
Oh, I
Mhm.
just wanted to say one thing.
Comments?
As he's talking about, Mr. James is talking about toxicity, female toxicity. Um, my research on the Mother's Day topic that I'm going to write is based on something like that. The person who started all of this, one person who started all of this Mother's Day celebration thing, they had that in mind, to look after their sons properly, to make sure that they don't be violent when they grow up and things like that. And I'm glad he brought that up.
Lovely. And that will be for our next meeting. Our next meeting is going to be held on the 12th of May, and it is our Mother's Day celebration meeting. So bring your pieces based on Mother's Day and the uniqueness of the Caribbean mother. I was reading up when preparing about barrel children, and so many kids that grew up and mothers that had to mother from abroad and send things back for their kids and things along that line. So we're looking at the uniqueness of the Caribbean mother for Mother's Day. Those that were here, and also those that weren't. Everyone's unique perspective on that. And with
Gusha,
that,
on that note, that I think I did send an email. I'm not. I have to check again. But the Mud House Museum has asked that if you could come down at the Mud House Museum, because they have a Mother's Day function there and a little fundraiser. With you get a nice breakfast, a breakfast fundraiser. So hoping that some of us could go down to the Mud House Museum on Mother's Day. I'd be going, Vilma tell me she'd be going, Randy, and I hope we'll get one or two of us who could go down there and do a reading. What we call reading, reading under the Cocoa House.
yes.
The Mud House Museum is a museum of East Indian artifacts. So that I don't know, some of us have been there, who have not been there. Just if you click the Mud House Museum Trinidad, you get an idea what's happening. And I'd be communicating with each one of you
And what time is
Like-
that, Mufti Lal?
Yeah.
What time?
Okay, we're looking to go there for breakfast. So we're looking to reach there for 9 o'clock.
9,
Have
okay.
breakfast, do some reading and all that. But I'll talk to you more about it this evening.
No problem. All righty, and with that, we will close if there are no other comments or, no. All right. Thank you so much for being here today. Thank you for joining us for Poetry and Prose. And
Good night. Good night from Switzerland.
Good night, Althea.
Good day from
Okay.
Toronto, guys. Stay well, be strong.
Thank you
Stay
all for
well.
inviting me.
All right,
All
catch
right.
you the next time. I'll be on vacation for a couple of weeks.
Oh, okay. Well, Pam, we will catch you at the next one.
Kazakhstan
you.
and Uzbekistan.
I want to hear you rap next time, Pam.
I'll have some neat stories when I come back.
All righty. With that, we will say have a good night or good day to wherever you are. And thanks so much for joining us. Poetry and Prose.